Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. I'm your host, Rafiki. Just kidding. It's your host, Francie, today, back for another episode of the Out of Spec podcast, but it's only fitting that we had Rafiki open up the show today. If you're tuning in with audio, you might have heard him breathing or something, but that was my dog, and his name is Rafiki, which is only fitting that he opens up today's show because we are talking about a trip down from the Netherlands down to South Africa and back again, and Rafiki is a Swahili word, a language spoken in Africa, and Tanzania specifically is where I lived, and it means friend, which is so great. It's also the name of the baboon in The Lion King that watches over his friend Simba, which means lion, but I digress. Today we were talking about 4x4electric, an amazing couple, Maarten and Renske, that decided, okay, yeah, we're going to take a Skoda Enyaq, an electric vehicle, modify it a little bit, and then drive all the way down to the Capetown in South Africa and back again from the Netherlands. Okay, let's plug in for this amazing conversation. This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for out-of-spec viewers. More information in the link in the show notes. Okay, everyone, like I said, we're about to speak to Maarten and Renske, who are incredible. They not only went on this great journey, but they documented it. They have all their websites and their social media that I'm going to link in the show notes. Please check them out. They've got videos on YouTube. They have written stories. And like I said, they have the data that they collected. They started, as you can see, I'm pulling up just some details on their expedition route. You can see how it wraps around this part of the globe. They started planning, I think, about a year before they set off on the road. November 4th, 2022, they started driving. Their halfway point was July 11th, 2023, almost a year ago exactly. And then November 26th, 2023 is when they ended their expedition. They drove over 33,000 kilometers. They drove over 12,000 hours. They used 5,650 kilowatt hours of power in Africa. Most of that was done by solar, 54%. And they also used the grid when they could and a diesel generator when they had to. But we're going to talk about all of that, what it was like to drive electric. Well, first off, to decide to do it, how they prepared for it, and what the actual excursion was like. And now that it's over, what happens to that EV? Are they going to carry on with any more adventures? There's so much to talk about. They charged with DC charging with these solar panels, and they got to meet the local communities along the way and really show what it's like to be remote, to travel with electric, and they proved that they could do it. So let's dive in with this amazing couple to talk to them directly about this incredible adventure that has me very amped. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. Okay, everyone, we are joined by two people who I'm so excited to talk to today. I'm all into adventures, and man, is this one electric adventure. Maarten and Renske from 4x4 Expedition Electric, and it's really impressive what y'all did. I know that there took physical, mental strength to get through it. And thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I can't wait to highlight this trip and just how you really not only opened up your experience, but like the EV experience to another adventure, which a lot of people won't be able to experience, but it does show just how far we can stretch when it comes to solar energy and getting around in an electric car. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, so your story is, I mean, I got to know, how did you get inspired to embark on this mission together? Where did it spark from the beginning? Because it's one thing to go on a long road trip. It's another to go from the Netherlands to South Africa.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, I think it started when we went on a holiday from to Namibia, and we just flew into Namibia from the Netherlands, which is like a 12-hour flight, and we rented the 4x4. And Namibia is a very dry country and lots of desert. And we, for the first time, we really saw like a desert landscape, and really like, okay, with how we're using the earth now, it's not really like in balance. So if you continue like this, then it will be dry everywhere like this. So it was then that we decided to fly back home, but don't fly anymore for as long as possible and explore also Europe more. We are quite lucky that we have seen already quite some things of the world. And then, we in that time, we already also bought an electric car. We went to Norway with this electric car. And well, as probably quite some listeners know, that Norway is number one electric driving country in the world. We still like adventure, but we missed the adventure a little bit. It was too easy to drive there with an electric car. And then I think we had a campfire, and we were sitting next to the campfire and thought, how can we still see something of the world, then not flying anymore. Yeah. And then this is a little bit how the idea came up.
So then we said, let's use solar panels, because then you go to places where there are no charging stations yet. So then you want to be self-sufficient, as we didn't want to rely on people, their homes, to ask for electricity there. Mm-hmm. And then we noticed that it wasn't done before, and we said, maybe it should be possible. And so we started asking around, and in the end it's possible. So that was quite a cool journey.
Definitely, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you did prove that it's possible. And it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to go around, I'm going to use the grid energy, I'm going to figure out what that is. But to add solar panels in, and also, it sounds like you adopted this EV into your life, the Skoda Enyaq, and then you decided, okay, this is the one. Did you know before you got it or after you got it that you were going to drive it so far?
Well, our first car, and the car we still have, is a Tesla Model 3. We took the Skoda Enyaq on this trip because it was the most spacious car that was on the market. And for us, the best fit. Do they sell Skoda in the US?
No.
Oh, yeah, it's like European, I think also Asia. But it's a reliable car. It's a good car, but it's it's an electric car, and we decided to take that on a journey. We only got it for the expedition.
Yeah, we mainly chose it as in Europe. It's quite a regular family car. Like, it's not high end, top of the line. But it's not bad either. It's like in the middle, medium, but just really good. Yeah. And we thought by choosing that car that we can show you don't need a very special car to do something crazy like this. So if we can do it, then maybe more people start dreaming of going a little further electric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a regular family car makes it approachable. It also adds that space because you do have to carry some things with you, which we're going to get into. So you also mentioned some other aspects about the Skoda that might have been helpful. I mean, like, was anything about, you say it's kind of average, right? But is there anything about the efficiency or anything else that you were like, oh, this is good? Or was it like, okay, this is decent, this is average, this is approachable, now we're going to modify it?
Yeah, but I think Renske already said it a little bit, but it for us, it was more that it was about electric driving and not so much about a brand or a Tesla. A lot of people, you hate it or you love it. And of course, there are people in between, but it's a lot of people have a strong opinion about Tesla. And for a Skoda, it's more like, do they make electric cars? I didn't know. And that was really, for us, it was really about electric driving. And
and as well, but still the car is quite efficient. So we didn't adjust much on the car, only the tires we adjusted and the springs, which didn't really have a good impact on the range. But in basis, it's a car with quite efficiency in the amount of energy it uses.
Okay, so not that many modifications, but you had to think about the landscape that you were going to, be adventuring into. And so how did you find the off-road capabilities of this car?
Well, to be honest, challenging. This car was not really made for very bad roads. It's very low to the ground, and we were very heavy. We were only rear-wheel drive, so not 4x4 even. Our name is 4x4 Electric. We can explain later why we have a two-wheel drive car. So overall, we had to be very cautious with driving on bad roads. So yeah, that was a challenge.
But on the other hand, it was quite interesting to experience the difference driving off-road electric compared to fossil fuel, as you can drive way more precise. So normally with a fuel car, you have the clutch kick and you cannot drive 1 kilometer an hour, for example, or keep it the same speed for a very precise time if you have a difficult route to take. And with an electric car, it's very detailed and very smooth. So driving electric off-road, I think that will be a very different experience for a lot of people.
Yes, I know that we've tested some off-road with out of spec, from trucks to not trucks, just to see what they can do. And it's definitely a different experience. And I think there's a lot of potential there. Okay. Interesting. I want to kind of take a step back to the planning phase, because had you done anything like this before? Was it just, are you good planners? Like, how did you approach this giant expedition?
That's a very good question, and to be honest, it was a very challenging route to go from like an idea to really a reality, and to driving to leaving the Netherlands. I think what helped us that we both had like a project management background. So I'm a technical project manager, and Renske did also a lot of projects and managing those projects, and that really helped us to manage this project. It was very hard, but we have never felt so alive, to be honest, because it was really cool to inspire people, getting people along, because as you have seen it, we have quite some sponsors. We couldn't have done it without, also on the technical side, it is really cool to convince people that it's possible, that our dream was possible.
But I think what we learned as well by preparing this is that if you start something like this, you cannot oversee it in the beginning. And you can only make it a reality by accepting that and just starting with a small thing and then going to the next and then to the next. Because if you want to see it all in one overview before you start, then you will never leave.
Yeah.
And the same when we left, we hadn't fixed every challenge. So we just left and we said, okay, the rest we will make better as we go, because otherwise you will just never leave. So those are the...
Yeah, I think
we learned that as we went, kind of.
Yeah, so break it up in very small pieces and have one goal at the end. So there's one goal, and that was driving electric from the Netherlands to Capetown and back. And that was the goal. But to that goal, all small steps. And that helped.
Wow. Okay, I can imagine that taking it one step at a time, 1 meter at a time is absolutely essential. And to be open to that, the idea that anything could happen and that you'll deal with it when it comes. Some things you could plan for, some things you could not. I have a friend who plans out his whole life, like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And I asked him one time, I was like, what if the plan changes? What if something happens? He's like, you make a new plan. I'm like, okay, great. That's a great approach. Yeah. So did you first break it up that, okay, let's get out of the Netherlands and then is it the country based, or was it?
So we did have the aim of going to Capetown and back. But we couldn't arrange all visa, for example, and we couldn't. We did have a preview of each country and how it was when we left home, so what we should prepare for. But on the other hand, we also knew it can change. So safety-wise, or how it's going in a country, that can change as well. So what we did is we made kind of chapters in the whole expedition of about a month or 2 months. And each time when we ended one part, we prepared the next. And we looked at the best route to take, what we need to prepare for visa, for safety. And then that helped us kind of to make it, in one overview.
Mm-hmm. To not prepare everything up front.
Yes. And I know that you wrote that it took about, maybe planning started a year before you left, but then, part of planning is realizing what you can't plan. But then it was 1.5 years on the road, right?
13 months. 1 2 months. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah. That's I mean, this is incredible. I'm personally inspired by y'all, and I can't wait to hear more about like how you inspired other people afterwards. But you did mention the sponsorship. So how did you convince folks on the front end you want to be a part of this, and how did it help you?
I think that was one of the hardest part of the whole preparation, to convince people taking part in this in our expedition, because we have a crazy dream driving electric to South Africa. And in the beginning, we weren't very successful. So what really helped us was that we bought the car ourselves. And that really, it was quite an investment. But because we bought the car ourselves, we bought our mind also into the expedition. And that really helped, that we could go to sponsors and potential sponsors and already pointed outside, hey, and that's the car which we will take on our expedition. So if you're joining, yes or no, we're going to go anyways. And that's something, it's a mindset. And it is in the beginning, very scary. It was already quite scary to share your idea on social media, on LinkedIn. For us, it was a very big step. And for others, it was more like, that's those crazy people. Well, a nice adventure again, or again, it was the first time. But yeah, it really helped to buy the car ourselves and just go for it.
I think it's just a lot easier to convince people it's interesting to join if you are sure you will go yourself. And in the beginning, we were not sure either, because it was just a crazy idea. And the moment we said, okay, we invest in the car, it was for us also in our minds a step, okay, we are going for this. So, and that helped quite a lot.
Definitely. I would say that for if there are listeners thinking of a crazy idea like we have, don't start with a car manufacturer. Just start with your idea and build it. Don't let it depending on if a car gets sponsored, yes or no, because the chance that you get your car sponsored is very, very small, or you need very good connections. So if you have a crazy idea like this, just focus on other parts and not the car itself.
Build something for someone to believe in and be enticed by, because you're going to need your own motivation along the way, no matter what, as I'm sure you'll continue to share with us. Okay, interesting. And now what about the charging technology before the expedition? What did you test? What did you decide on? What did you carry with you to make sure that you could have power wherever you were?
Yeah, so I think we started calculating by how many kilometers did we want to drive in a day, because that kind of gives you an impression on how much energy you need to be able to charge in a day as well. And for this, we looked back at our previous trip to Namibia. And as the roads in a lot of African countries are not as good as here, and you don't really have highways, you don't go very fast. So we said, okay, you want to drive around 150 kilometers to 200 kilometers a day. And from there, we started calculating like how many solar panels do we need to charge that amount in one day. And so we really started, figuring it out. And so that's solar panel wise. And then the charging technique, that was, I think, also one of the biggest challenge for our expedition, because there was no product on the market yet to charge a car directly with solar panels, as they don't give a stable amount of energy the whole time. So that was for us the challenge, to find a company that could help us make this. So that took as well some time, but in the end, it's.
So as you can see on the picture, we had 60 of those solar panels in the back of our car. So we had a drawer system with 10 drawers, and each drawer contained like 3 panels, and then like in mirror side upside down, 3 other on top. 60 in total, and it was roughly 11 kilowatt peak of solar. And on a good day, we could charge like 40 kilowatt hours of energy, which was roughly 200 kilometers of driving approximately. And to add on the charging side, what is kind of special on our charging technique is that we charge with the CCS protocol, also used in the US for fast charging. So the solar panels DC stayed DC. It was only converted to the voltage of the high voltage battery and then directly into the car. So that saved a lot of equipment and also a lot of conversion losses, which are normally built up in heat And yeah, of course, we had quite some high temperatures, so it really helped us, this technique.
Interesting. I'd love to know more about that. One, can you tell me like who manufactured these solar panels that you found fit? And also, that's so many solar panels. That's amazing. You carried all of that. That is quite the spread. Yeah. Can you tell me where those came from? And then I'd love to dive into more of the fact that you chose to stay DC and charge this way instead of finding a little bit of a, I don't know, other method.
Yeah, so the solar panels are from an Austrian company, Das Energy in this case. They make this kind of solar panels, so they're not specifically made for our expedition. They're normally used for like roofs that are like a little bit curved or not strong enough to hold glass panels. So it was just a standard product on the market. And they were not very efficient, so like 18% efficiency. But yeah, for us it worked. And yeah, on the charging side, it was a small company in the Netherlands that I think we met this guy on an exhibition somewhere in the Netherlands, and we shared our story and said, hey, maybe I can make something.
Yeah.
And it's Venema e-mobility. It's a small company in the Netherlands. They are not producing this charger, but we are. So we are working on a consumer version on this. I don't know if
I loved that.
We are not alone.
We are not alone. We have some chicken.
Oh, that was so great.
But we are working on a consumer version because we see quite some people that are willing to do this kind of things. But basically, it's just DC in and DC CCS out. That's as easy as it is. Interesting.
So that was specifically, I mean, it's okay with me. I think that's...
No, but we can close the window, so it's a little bit less...
How many chickens do you have?
We have 8.
7.
8.
8?
Yeah. One of your parents is also at our...
Ah, yeah, that's true.
You're babysitting.
And one rooster.
Yes.
That one. Yes. Amazing. Okay, so so how did this... how did you decide on this? Because I've talked to folks who do stay AC. Was it just more for efficiency? You mentioned heat loss. Was it kind of a no-brainer? If we can figure it out, this is what we're going to do?
A combination. So it was efficiency, as you have a lot less energy losses by not switching. We also needed less equipment, which was quite nice as we didn't have a lot of space. So I think mainly those reasons for us.
Mainly those reasons. And I think you could do now more with, for example, some EcoFlows and connecting solar panels directly into it. But because we need quite some, we had 11 kilowatt peak of solar. So that's not something you can easily plug in an EcoFlow or that kind of equipment. So there was not equipment on the market. And the higher the energy, the more equipment you need and the more heavy equipment. So in the end, we had just one box, and otherwise we had multiple boxes. And well, it was maybe not even possible with the amount of equipment needed. So it was really a necessary thing for our expedition.
I'm so glad you could find a solution that worked. And as we saw in that picture before, and if you're tuning in just in your ears, friend, listener, it's a big spread that you got there. What was what were the size of these? So if we could give someone an idea.
Yeah, I know it in square meters. So a little bit over 60 square meters.
60 square meters?
Yeah.
Square meters in feet. That's about 645 square feet. Okay, that's a lot. So I can imagine you could find space for this, but then also what if you couldn't, or what if it was really cloudy, or what else? So what other energy sources did you use?
Yeah, so we did the most on solar. That was also our challenge. We wanted to challenge ourselves to use it as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And what we often did is search for a hill to put them against, so that the angle was more perfect to the sun, and then the yield was higher. But we did sometimes also use the grid. So from Morocco to Ghana, which is more than 5,500 kilometers, we only used our solar panels.
So 3,500 miles approximately.
Yes. And that worked perfectly. Yeah. But then the more we went south, we went into rainy season, which means indeed a lot of clouds. And then sometimes we also use the grid. Otherwise, the trip would have taken, I think, twice as long or something. So sometimes we waited a day to wait for the sun. But yeah, indeed, this is not the route we took. But indeed, this we drove along the coastal countries.
So in this case, we went from Morocco into Mauritania, and then Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, and then so all the coastal countries.
Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, and then Ghana. And from Ghana, we got into the rainy season, so there we had to charge on the grid sometimes. But that also was quite interesting, because then you are in countries where there are almost no electric cars yet. Sometimes 1 or 2 or 3, but it's not a lot. So then when we stopped, for example, at a hotel, or mainly at hotels actually, and we asked, okay, can we maybe use some electricity as well? And then they had never seen an electric car, but they are so solution-minded that they just started fixing stuff. And sometimes we could even charge with 3-phase in 10 minutes.
Yeah, within 10 minutes we were charging 3-phase.
Really cool.
And we had quite some cables with us, like the loose wires and different plugs and all kind of stuff. And then they connected straight into the like, what is the fuse box in the hotel. Yeah. But for finding places to put out our solar panels, that was rather easy, in the sense that there are football fields everywhere. So that's that's always flat or almost flat. But especially in the beginning in Morocco, the sun was not like straight up, so we need to find hills to put them a little bit more in the angle towards the sun. And we started looking for a place to charge when we had at least 100 miles of range. And then within 100 miles of range, you always find something. Yeah. So it's not that we need to charge now, and then in the next in 10 minutes, we need to find something. It's just we're on the road. We start in the morning when the sun is up at 7 or so, and then we have 2 or 3 hours to find a nice spot, because the sun is not that strong in the morning. So you get really flexible and relaxed and looking for a nice place, and in the end you find one, and then you just put it out.
And you did mention a hotel, and I love that they were so quick to be like, let's help you get that energy. And I can't wait to talk about the communities that you met as well. But was it a mix of hotels and camping? Where did you usually find yourself sleeping?
Yeah, actually we slept, I think, 90 to 95% of the time in our rooftop tent, and then mainly in the wild. So there are not often campsites, but we also prefer to sleep in the wild, as it's just, here we slept at a church. That was also quite a unique experience. Wow. But mainly we slept in the wild, as it's just very quiet, and we always loved wild camping, even before this trip, as it's just a very pure way to be in nature. But we did use a hotel sometimes only because we just needed electricity. And by booking a room, you kind of have an agreement that it's easier to ask for electricity as well. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, often our rooftop tent slept better than a hotel.
And also because it's something, when you travel for so long, it's in the end quite tiring. And the rooftop tent is a place that's always the same. So of course, sitting in the car, always the same. But being in your rooftop tent is the one cozy feeling of after a long day of traveling, and it's always the same. So that's
your Skoda home that doesn't change. Yeah, that can be nice to have a sense of comfort along such an adventure. And so it sounds like generally solar panels were okay. You mentioned like finding the right angle. Is there any? I've talked to some people who do some solar projects charging up batteries where they're like between these parts of the world, like this is the angle that it should be at. Did y'all find any sort of specific angle that you always went for, or was it just sun exposure?
Well, because we were traveling for so long, the sun was also moving because due to the seasons. So when we started in Morocco, it was like 50 degrees in the direction south, and slowly traveling south, approximately in Cameroon, it was flat, but because then the sun was moving north and we went south. So in close to Capetown, we already had like 50 degrees north. So it really changed during our expedition. Mm-hmm. So there are just websites where you can find it for every day, any place in the world.
Interesting. And I know that, like you said, Renske, that you wanted to charge at least like 50% with solar, and you did hit that, right? And did it from the beginning where you're like, oh, we are going to be able to do this, or did it reveal itself?
Well, not really. So we had tested the technology twice in the Netherlands before we left. But when we left, it was November, so it was winter time. So we couldn't really test it that well. So we started using the technology intensely in Morocco. But it was also very new to us. So in the beginning, we didn't really know how to optimize it, and the yield was quite low in a day. So in the beginning, we did also charge quite a lot on the grid. But then when we were in the south of Morocco, we said, okay, maybe we should challenge ourselves to try and keep charging on the sun as long as possible, just because otherwise, you don't get a hang of it either. So, and then when we did that, we kept on going for way longer than we had expected, as it just worked. And that kind of helped to reach the 51% on solar energy, because after that we got into the rainy season and it became a lot more difficult. So we are quite happy that we went for it quite deep.
But also to add on that is that there were like two parts in our expedition that we had, like, as we call it, a grid gap. So we had two stretches of over 500 miles. 800 kilometers or 900 kilometers, that there was no electricity. So we really needed our solar panels. There were towns with electricity, but they had solar and they had enough batteries for that town. But if we had to charge like 40, 50 kilowatt hours of energy into our car, that is probably the whole what the whole village is using in a couple of days. So we really depending on our solar panels, and I can say now, not to scare people off, but at the moment it's not possible to drive electric from all the way to south if you don't have a own source of energy with you. If you drive to West Africa.
That's probably something good to note. And I mean, you don't make it seem that scary. Just get all your solar panels, and then you're able to do it. But along with grid gaps, I mean, when I lived in Tanzania for half a year, sometimes the grid would go out. There would be power outages, but it was a normal thing. Did you run into that ever? And if so, what did you do?
Yeah, so when we arrived in South Africa, there were scheduled power outages. So you had load shedding, and then we couldn't charge either. But that wasn't really a problem because it's planned, so you know when it will come, and we weren't in a hurry, so that was fine. And further, you had it sometimes in villages. For example, we had it in Nigeria. Then we traveled for, I think, 4 days. And during the whole trip, all villages we crossed, they had a power outage. So we did cross it sometimes. And then it's quite nice if you have your own source. Otherwise, you just have to wait until the grid comes on again. But
we Nigeria was the most intense country for us because due to safety, we didn't encounter any dangerous situation, but we wanted to cross Nigeria as fast as possible, and therefore we also used a generator to charge. Apology. That we used a generator to charge our car, and the generator was running with for us 11 kilowatts for a couple of hours because we needed to continue. So. And to add on at least half, why not all on solar energy, that our idea as well in whole sustainability and all the decisions we make as humans, that we don't need to look for perfect solutions. And if so, then it will take way too long to come up with solutions. And if you look for already better solutions, that's already doing a good thing. So therefore, at least half, but not all, because then it's just too perfect and not something we can make in the end.
That's an interesting thought, that it not 100%, not to approach it that way. Can you tell me a bit more about that? Do you think generally I know that y'all are very motivated by the sustainability aspect, and I think a lot of people are when it comes to electric, of course. Do you think that's a solution when we look towards sustainability in general? Is that maybe there's not just a silver bullet fix, but we have to make compromises?
Yeah, I think so. Otherwise, as well, it's a too big step for people to take. So, for example, The same with eating meat. Like we eat a lot less meat, but it's not like never eating it again, because then it's so strict for yourself that you think, oh, I'll never survive that, I will just keep eating meat. And by making it smaller, it becomes more easy to adapt to the change. And to become more sustainable as humans, we need to change quite a lot. And if we make it too big, we cannot do that. So I think it's the only way to make it smaller and approachable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the same on electric driving. Like the best for the planet is way less moving. Yeah. So not move around, because that's of course better. But we have to be realistic, and then people want to move. People want to see, want to visit family, friends, and all. And then electric driving is not the holy grail, for sure not, because it's still using minerals, and of course less and less rare earth minerals. So it's becoming better and better. But it's not perfect, definitely not. But it's way better.
It would be better to go walking, but that's also not the ideal for every solution. So it's always just making a step in the good direction, and then if we keep doing that, you will come there in the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate that insight, especially after all of your time on the road and really thinking about it and putting such a, extreme example of it to test in a way. Yeah. And so
to add one thing on that is that it's indeed that electric cars are, there's a lot of mining involved, but electric cars, and especially batteries, we can recycle them very well. So yes, now there's a lot of minerals needs to be getting out of the ground. But in the future, we can really recycle. And with petrol cars, you cannot get the energy back because it's burned. So, it's better for the environment compared to fuel cars.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And you did track a lot of that data of your CO2 emissions, diverted, the petrol you would have used, all those things, including, of course, your solar usage as well. And of course, also how many kilowatt hours that you used. And I have some numbers. Let me know if they're wrong. I think they're right. But over 5,000 kilowatt hours, you moved over 33,000 kilometers. And then you averaged kind of an efficiency of 170 watt hours per kilometer, which is around 3.67 miles per kilowatt hour. Does that data sound right? About right?
Yeah. And the energy consumption, I think that for quite some people are thinking now, well, that's quite low for such a big truck, lots of solar panels and all. And quite an easy explanation on this is that we drove slow. So our cruising speed on quite some roads were 50 kilometers per hour. So
or even slower.
So 30 miles per hour. And that sounds very slow. But on the other hand, if you travel for so long, then driving slow is quite nice, to be honest. And that's not to make it better and to give an argument that is quite, to improve why we drove so slow. But it was energy. We saved energy with it, and you see the country in a more relaxed way.
Certainly. So probably having to go slow, whether it's due to road conditions or actual speed limits, that probably did contribute to the efficiency numbers that you hit.
Yeah. It's a really big impact. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you had a kind of a heavy load in a way. I mean, it's already heavy being an electric vehicle, but then on top of what you have in there.
We were very heavy.
Yeah, we it's in kilograms, of course, but we were a little bit over 3,000 kilograms.
Yeah, we were a little bit overweight for the car, actually. But we just drove very slow so that you don't push the limits of the car. So in the end, we thought it will be fine. But it's quite, it was quite heavy.
Quite heavy. Yeah. Over 600 or 6,000 pounds, which the EV that I've been driving is the VinFast VF8, which is over 6,000 pounds. And it feels heavy, which is sometimes nice. You feel stable, but it does mean that you're pushing along a heavier EV over it. Okay, I'd love to talk.
And maybe on the European market, I think 95% of the normal, the cars are way below 3,000 pounds.
Oh yeah.
Or 3,000 kilograms, so below 5,000 pounds. So we have quite small cars in Europe, but And we also had a rooftop tent and a rooftop box, so we were not very aerodynamic. And but we broke one damper.
Yeah, so but that's the only thing.
That's the only thing that broke. Trip. Yeah,
we expected before we left that quite a lot of things might break because the car was not designed to drive through Africa. So why would it stay in one piece? But we never had anything. And in Capetown, the car was checked, and the mechanic was quite disappointed that he couldn't find anything on the car that was not.
It was our halfway point. Yeah.
Halfway point. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So that wasn't much of a challenge, maintenance.
No. It was funny that we were not that big on social media, but in Namibia, I made some kind of funny post that I said, okay, now we have to do maintenance on our electric car, and it's going to be a tough one. And I filled up the washer fluid, and then I just closed the bonnet, and then that was it. Wow, that was a hard job to do, and it went sort of viral. It was quite funny because people were like, "Is this all?" Or
Oh my gosh, that's so great. I love that. I mean, it's true. They do require less maintenance, but even putting through the adventure that you did, the Skoda seemed to perform pretty well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like the bottom plate of the car is quite damaged and scratched.
I can imagine.
And I think, like, looking back at it now, is that we are also lucky in a way that we choose a Skoda, but because they're the bottom plate of the Skoda, and I think also the Volkswagen ID4, they have like a thick layer of aluminium, and then there's air in between the battery and the bottom layer. And we had one dent of, I would say, like 1.5 inch or 1 inch, and we had really okay, now we damaged the car and we ruined it, and it was in the heat of the moment somewhere on a very bad road. But luckily, it was just not deep enough to really damage the battery. So we were, but it was one of the scariest moments. I really can remember that. Definitely. I was driving off a rock, and it was like, bam! And it's not a nice sound.
Definitely not.
Oh my gosh, no. Was that one of the main moments where that was maybe the most challenging or spooky, where you thought, oh, everything could change right now?
Yeah, it was. We had to take a road, and we knew it would be quite challenging, but it was the only route that was open to go from the north of Africa to the south in Nigeria. And it was a mountain road, and it was actually only for 4x4s, so for like real off-road cars. But if we wouldn't take that road, we had to ship from I think from Ghana to Namibia even. So then we skipped like half of the expedition. So we didn't want to do that. So we said, okay, let's just try and see how far we get. But it was, I think, 150 kilometers. And both of us, we really had our complete meltdown in that road. As we said, this is just not doable. And we drove on average less than 6 kilometers an hour. So it took 4 days, I think, to drive it.
It's probably one of the most watched video on our YouTube channel, because you really can see the emotion in our we really lost it there, and the car was sliding all over, and it was not fun. It was
slippery, and the height differences of the road were quite intense, and then we are just really low, so it was just a very big puzzle to get through.
But now looking back at it, it's like almost the best part of the expedition.
Oh, good. I mean, looking back at the hard parts, that's the best part. Getting through them can be very challenging. Was there anything in that moment, or those kind of moments, where you were like, oh, I wish we had done a certain modification to the car? Or was it just like, this is how it is?
Yeah. So mainly the ground clearance.
The ground clearance.
So we did try to raise the car before we left, and we did change the springs to do that. So it was even lower actually. But we had hoped to raise it a bit more, but there was nothing on the market, and nobody dared to do that with an electric car.
I think the issue we had was that we were just two individuals, not having experience with driving off-road, and we're going to do it with an electric car. So there were no companies in the Netherlands there to help us raising our ground clearance. So it's just one of those things we couldn't have done it differently. If I go again, more on that later, then I definitely want to have more ground clearance. Yes.
Yeah. I think that could be helpful if you come across anything, but you made it through, of course. Love that. And then you did just mention 4x4. And then earlier you mentioned, well, it's not really a 4x4, but why do you call it that? If it's 2-wheel drive?
Well, it kind of grew that way. So we had the name of our expedition before we had the car. And then the intention was to get a 4x4. But the further we were in the preparation, we realized a 4x4 is more expensive. It's more heavy, which weight is our enemy. And we realized we didn't really need it, as 4x4 with electric cars is mainly to make it quicker and faster. And we didn't need that. So we just needed a lightweight car that could do as much as possible electric. So in the end, we decided to not go for the 4x4, but then we had the name and we got,
We were already so far in the process and the preparation, and we thought, okay, we leave it.
We just leave it like that. And 4x4 stands for adventure, and that still fits. So we said, let's just leave it as is and keep going.
Yeah, and we had rear wheel drive, and we had like 60% of our weight was on the rear. So we had the grip of our car was like very impressive, even on quite steep hills or rocky terrains. It just went on and on. And of course, if you really want to do like big off-road trips and all, then of course there's like a Rivian or maybe the Ford Lightning that's better suitable for the job, definitely. But they also consume more energy. So it was really a trade-off in pure off-road driving. Definitely a Rivian or a Ford Lightning, but we also drove on tarmac and so it was just quite a good trade-off.
I bet afterwards Skoda was like, oh my gosh, thank you for doing this. This is incredible. Can you tell me a little bit more about their reception? You were like, we're going to get the car on our own. We're going to bootstrap this a little bit, but okay, look what we're doing with your EV.
Yeah, so it as well with them, the collaboration really grew. So before we left, they didn't really like that we used their car because they didn't test it to do this. So they didn't know if we could make it. And I think a couple of weeks before we left, we approached them once again and we said, okay, we are going. It can be a small collaboration, but just like in case something breaks, that we can contact you and that we can fix it together just to make sure we can fix it. So then a couple of weeks before we left, they said yes, and it was a small collaboration. In the beginning, we didn't really have a lot of contact, but the further we drove down to Capetown, the more they got into contact and the more they even shared themselves about the expedition.
Yeah, I think the interesting or the funny part of it is that when we drove that bad road between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then we had the dent in the bottom plate, we sent quite some pictures of those of the dent to the technical department of Skoda, and they said that we were very lucky and that we had to be careful with the car. But I think that from that moment, how we approached them and how we dealt with the car, and also the weeks before, they really saw that we really took care of the car, and we were not like just random doing all kind of stuff and danger and all. No, our car was really it was the only way of transport we had, so we were really careful, and that's also that they saw it in the end. And long story short, on our way up, we drove to Kenya and then to Greece and back via Czech Republic, where the Skoda, the Enyaq is made. We had a very warm welcome in Czech Republic and met a lot of people there and people from the board, and that was really cool. We were welcomed with open arms, and they really inspired them. And I think also interesting how Renske started is that if you design something, you also design to limits. And we don't know those tests, so we don't know the limit. And therefore, we can sort of more looking for those limits. And that's really helping in,
We made the producers of the Skoda Enyaq more proud of their product, which is quite a funny thing. As they make it, we only used it. This is in the factory, so we even got a tour to see how the car was once made.
Like 200 meters behind in that building, there's like the manufacturing line of the Skoda Enyaq.
Wow. So you really proved a lot of what they were making, what it could do if you put it to the test, which, I'm sure they do their testing, but this is a whole different realm.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's a part of the community along your adventure. But of course, the many local communities that you passed through, I imagine that you saw so many different stories. You got to talk to an incredible number of people, and also, some people who might have never seen an electric vehicle before. So what was that like? Can you share any memorable interactions with locals or unique cultural experiences that you had along your trip down to South Africa?
I found it quite interesting to notice that explaining to people, if they have never seen an electric car, how to explain to them how it works, it's actually quite easy, and they can understand it quite quickly. So what we often did is we opened the hatch where you normally put fuel in, and then they could see that it's like you cannot put it in anymore. It's different. Then they completely understood it, and they just found it so interesting as, of course, there is on average quite a lot of sun in Africa, and imagining that could be the fuel to drive on, that they found it always, everybody was very positive, curious.
It also really helped us that we had overall, I think, more than 250 checkpoints in a year of traveling, and that's just for safety for the country, and then showing your passport and all. And like 95% are all fine. They are happy to see you, and you can continue. And there is just that last 5% that's sometimes annoying. They want to try to get money out of you, but. What we often did is then we stop, you show your passport, and then if you have the feeling that the person is kind of annoyed or wants to search for something that you have to pay, then we put our car in reverse, and we drove like a couple of foot in reverse, and then to back forward again. And it's like, no sound, I don't hear it. And then people really opened up. So we really could give that first unique experience of the first electric car in your life, and that was really helped us a lot as well. To inspire people and
create a connection there where it's like, yes, we're foreign, we're coming through, and listen, that you can't hear anything coming from this car. Look, like let's bond over this. Because it's definitely some different rules along borders that I've experienced as well, where you're working in a different environment. Were there any words? I know there's lots of different languages spoken in the continent of Africa, but were there any words that you hung on to from any of the languages that you encountered?
Yeah, I think there's one, and it was more on the eastern side, and it's Mzungu.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yep. You are Mzungu. We are Mzungu.
Yeah, and in the beginning, we had like a little bit of strange feeling about it, because often we were the only white people around, and we had like, okay, is this? How do we need to feel this? But then we got a very well. Somebody explained it very well to us, and it's just basically like wanderer. And we were just wanderers because we were traveling around so Mzungu is that was one that we heard like a lot.
1 million times, I think.
Yes. I heard that too. Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it, like y'all said, it typically means wanderer. I think it originated with the white colonists that came in, and then it turned into like the tourists, and now it's like the wanderers coming through. But definitely it can be an affectionate term as well, where it's like, oh hey Mzungu.
It's a positive word, so it's not discriminating, and it's not like a heavy word from the past. So what we have understood as well is that also people from other African countries traveling through different countries are also Mzungus or a Mzungu. I don't know what multiple of
Wazungu, I think, would be plural, because I did study a bit of Swahili, hence why my dog's name is Rafiki, which means friend. So how cool. I love that. And I do want to ask about the food, because I know a lot of cultures everywhere, but if you show up to someone's house or their community, they're going to make sure that you are fed.
Definitely.
What about the food that you encountered along the way?
Well, that was very nice. Like often we spend the whole day in one place to charge with our solar panels, and then everywhere there are people. You're just never completely alone. So often somebody came walking by and then kept walking, and then like a couple minutes later he or she came back, and then he or she gave us like watermelons or some meat they made, or just because they were worried that we didn't have any food or something, or they wanted to make us feel welcome. That was very nice.
Yeah, more than often, people just gave us food, just as a present, not selling it or just.
Or they asked us to join in a picnic, and then it's like you eat with 8 people out of one big bowl with hands. It's very intimate. It's very pure, very nice.
Yeah.
Further food-wise, we mainly cooked ourselves. So we cooked electric as well, indeed, on solar.
Induction, not on solar.
And we did this also a little bit on purpose to make sure you can stay to your own hygiene, as we never got food poison because of that, just because you can use everything like you're used to, also with spices, as it can be quite different in some countries. And I think for us that was also quite nice that we didn't get sick to begin with, but also what you get. It's when traveling that long, for us that was kind of nice. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the challenges, about the experience that you had along the way. I mean, your story, I would encourage everyone to check out y'all's YouTube and your storyboards, like everything that y'all have done to understand more and more. And hopefully we're giving everyone a really great picture about this. But I can imagine that there were many highlights and many lowlights. But if you had a lesson to take away about driving electric over long distances and in remote areas, what would they be? What would you kind of communicate?
I would say that with driving with solar panels, and it feels so unique to be able to drive so long on solar panels. So we often got compared with the movie The Martian. Where Matt Damon has to travel on Mars and also using his solar panels to charge the vehicle, and it's just like what I really found special on our expedition is that overall the numbers are not that crazy. So 11 kilowatt peak of solar panels is just something. If you have a quite big house, that's just 11 kilowatt. It's not something we need like 200 or 300. So every number in our expedition is just. Yeah, it's just a normal number, and that really makes it special that it's already so easy to do this kind of stuff. Of course, you need to be a little bit crazy like we are to do this kind of stuff, but it is just possible. Yeah.
No, I think something else as well, like the solar part, we find it quite a shame that we only experienced it, and we can talk about how unique the feeling is of driving purely on the sun and energy you generated yourself, but you cannot explain that. I think you just have to experience and then you get the feeling. But something else that everybody experiences, I think, when driving electric, but often we forget it, is how quiet the car is. So we didn't drive that fast, and we always drive with the windows open. And then one day we joined other travelers, and we swapped I drove with the other partner, and we swapped kind of in cars. And then I thought, oh my God, you don't hear any people, any birds, all the surround sounds are gone because of the motor that is running the whole time in your ear. And in an electric car, it's just quiet, and you're just outside in nature and enjoying it. And it's you get used to it quite quickly, but it is really nice, actually.
I think,
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I think that's such an understated part of EVs is the quietness. And I always, I think, that's another thing. Unless you experience it a good bit, then you really start to see the value. But go ahead, Maarten.
I only on the tracks, on the off-road tracks, that you can hear the tires on the rocks and all, and but indeed also the birds and all other
and the people,
stuff.
If you drive through a market, you don't bore them with your noise. You're just a really quiet visitor, and it's so different.
It was indeed interesting that in one country we had to drive to town, and it was a very a small area that we had to pass, and there was somebody walking in the middle of the street, and we had to pass, but we couldn't use our horn because it was too close. And then we just drove slowly behind this person, and at one moment he was turning around. It was really like he scared a lot because he was scared of the car. And of course here and especially in the Netherlands, people are used to electric cars, but it's so quiet and
Yeah, I'm driving a Kia EV9 right now, and they have their little, the hum, but it's like a musical hum. So they put in a little bit of their own sound so that you can. I know that there are those safety features, but even getting creative with it like that, where there's like it's like a really quiet hum bird song that's going out from this car. But I do think that is one of my favorite parts. And I know that you tracked a lot of your data. Of course, that is something that we do as well on the Out of Spec team. We're all about data. I would love to just know a little bit more about how you calculated, like how many liters of petrol you saved and the carbon dioxide. And then also you talked about trees. I mean, how did you go about these metrics? So if anyone else wanted to also model them out.
Yeah, so only just about the sound of our car. We switched off the speaker in Africa to make the experience for people even better, not hearing our car.
Oh, great. Oh, so you can do that. You can say no humming.
It's not a button for consumers.
You have to really unplug something.
You need the manual to fix it, but it was worth it. Yeah.
Nice. Good.
On these metrics, for this we worked together with students, and students helped us make visible the impact we made with the trip. So each metric has its own algorithm on how it's calculated, and so there are quite some things taken into account. So to easily show you how it's calculated, we would need some more detail for that, I think.
Basically, like easily said, is that the amount of petrol saved is based on like a similar kind of car, and then using fuel. And normally this driving in kilometers and liters, it's like one in 10. And that's just an easy calculation to petrol saved, and it's probably more because also on bad roads, then 4x4 will use more petrol. But it just gives a rough idea of this. But there is also the CO2 saved. It's not just a random number, but it's indeed a little bit complex to. And it's also made by students, not in a bad way, but I don't know everything about it myself anymore.
That's how I would be. I'd be like, I'll give it to the smart students and they can figure it out. Yes, I love that. Okay, great. Would encourage everyone to look at that data, though. I do love that y'all tracked the data. And now
I think it's possible, if people would want to know, if you click to the explanation of the metrics, then you can see how it is calculated. So it is shown on the website. Yes, here you can see how we give an estimation on how we did it.
Amazing. Okay. And yes, everything that we've talked about today, listener, will be linked in the show notes. And I love your story. I strongly recommend everyone to check it out. And the Skoda has retired, right? Can you tell me more about that? What is its future?
Yeah, well, that's a very special story, to be honest, and it's quite fresh. We had it on our driveway for months since we returned. But just last week, we drove it to Czech Republic, and we made a very a nice deal together with Skoda that they put them that they put Sunbeam. We have like a nickname. The nickname is Sunbeam of our electric car, but it's displayed in the museum as we speak. So Sunbeam, and it will be part of the Skoda legacy cars for the rest of its life. So that's really we feel very honored that this is like the end, but also the beginning, and that's that we can inspire.
The story will live on. That's
the story will live on.
We couldn't have made up a better location for it.
If you ever are in Czech Republic, feel free to visit it.
Yes.
In Mlada Boleslav is the town.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful town name. And you made it through as a team. Would you do it again together?
Yeah, actually for us that was the most easy part, I think.
Yeah.
We calculated that we sat together for 1,200 hours next to each other in the car. And I think the whole year we have been only once more than 100 meters away from each other. So it is intense. But also in a good way. So you get to rely on each other completely, and it's a very intimate way. Now we know we are meant for each other, because if we can survive this, then we can survive anything.
So sweet, so cool. What an adventure. And I'm sure you have seen how this has inspired other people, whether it's electric or sustainability or thinking about solar or thinking about renewable resources and taking on an adventure, believing in your idea and running with it and looking into the future. What future plans do you have? I mean, this is a huge accomplishment. What's next for y'all?
Yeah, for me, it's starting from beginning this year, I already started as a consultant for a new expedition. Long story short, I'm gonna do it all over. So end of this year, October this year, I will drive again, this time from Paris to Cape Town, also with electric cars and also with solar. And so I'm gonna do it again.
Oui. Play magnifique. So what do you know which cars you're going to be taking yet, or is that all still TBD?
No, we know we go with 4 Citroën Amis. So it's a very small car. I don't even know if they sell it in the US, but it's like a city car.
Yeah, they don't sell it, but I did see it when I was in Paris earlier this year, and I was like, it's crazy. I will bring up a picture. Yeah, it's tiny though. Are you worried at all about how tiny it is?
It is.
The front and the back are exactly the same, so it really looks like a small dinky toy kind of.
It does. Yeah, and it really does.
It is. You can use it in Europe as like a moped license, so you don't need an official driver license to be able to drive it. So that's an advantage. But it will be an Ami on steroids, because it will be completely renovated with different suspension and like a lot of solar panels. It will be completely, it will really our Expedition 2.0. So on a lot of stuff, it will be way better. And not that saying our expedition was not good, but it's even better. So that's really cool to be part of.
I mean, I'm sure if you can take the lessons that you learned into a new excursion, that it will be different, perhaps better. I mean, you're taking lessons learned into it. But Renske, you're not going. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. Yes. Yeah. So me, I'm now working again. We saw quite a lot on where our food comes from. And I'm now working as a project leader for a project where they are looking into new ways to provide us as humans with food in a more sustainable way. So very different from an expedition, but also very interesting. So for me, it's good to have a different chapter. And we stay together privately, but to do something else business-wise is also quite nice. Now we have new stuff to talk about again.
And it's also, we like challenges, so like expedition like this. So we were together for 13 months, like being together, really together. And now this expedition will be like 3.5 months, so it will be way shorter. But now it's the challenge to be away from each other for like more than 3 months. So it's like, then we have seen both sides of really together and not being together. So that's something we like.
So interesting. Yeah, I feel like our food sources is in line with, of course, your sustainable interests. And I have friends who are in that space as well. And I think it's very, very important. So I absolutely love it. I can't wait to hear more about this journey, Maarten. And I hope that we can continue to touch base with you as you consult on this and prep live for this next expedition, because of course we're getting the beautiful summary overview of this adventure that has happened, and then now maybe we can watch it unfold again right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, we keep in contact about it, and I will share definitely also the story of this expedition.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Truly, I mean, I think it's a amazing, iconic, inspiring adventure story, and as someone who loves adventures, that's enough for me. But as someone also who loves EVs, to hear how you did it and learn about the intricacies, the challenges, the highlights, the lowlights, and we only touched on some of it. I mean, this is over a year. I mean, including planning, like 2 years of your lives. It's
exactly.
Definitely.
Yes. So if people want to find you, of course, they can go to your website. I'll put that all in the links. But is there anything else that you want to share that folks listening or watching can check out?
Yeah, I already mentioned it a little bit, and it's not making a lot of advertising in the sense that we want to earn money with it, but more we are making our DC solar charger. We are working on a consumer version because we want to give our way of traveling also to other people to be able to do this. And yeah, it's still not possible to buy it somewhere. So that's something we are developing, and so I would say stay tuned, and maybe we can inspire people to do the same, and then with the same technique we had with us. And it's also, I think there's also a link on our website where you can find how you can sign up for a newsletter, and
Perfect.
But on Instagram, it's 4x4electric.
Perfect. Yes, we'll definitely follow y'all, and everyone should follow y'all on social media and keep up to date. And I would love to hear about this product, the solution that you're developing. I'm sure it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for your time and your energy today, telling this story that I obviously am getting a lot of energy from, but hopefully it's also still fulfilling for you to talk about and share. I really appreciate it, and I think our audience will enjoy it as well.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you for having us.
Looking forward to staying in touch, keeping up to date. Y'all are obviously always have something going on that I'm interested in, sounds like. So thank you so much. And I bet our audience will have questions for you. So definitely go check this amazing couple out and their adventure. But also let us know what comments you have. If you've ever relied on solar to get far into remote parts of the world, or just get far in general, I think it's a really cool challenge that we can undertake, and it can shift our perspective a little bit. So thank you everyone for tuning into the Out of Spec podcast. Really appreciate it. Drive safe, stay charged, and we'll see you next time on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.